Clean up. Good. What's happening?
It was this meeting last year. It was
always a ton of
100 degrees in this room. This is our first meeting last year. Yeah. I don't think I'll forget that one. Yeah. What's up, Mr. Jordan?
Everyone.
Yeah, it was y'all's first meeting. Got to get you broken in good.
This is our year anniversary.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Oh, that was terrible. That was
It was this meeting last year. It was 100 degrees.
Hey, we're gonna move number 7 to number 1. All these folks are here for number 7.
Before we get started tonight, again, if anybody is in attendance, if you'll please sign the attendance form so we have record of you being here tonight. So that's this one.
Yeah.
Follow me.
For sure.
We just.
Last time we were here. That was before it was this hot.
Yeah.
Without, right, that's all.
There's been times I wish I could look at Google Earth or something when we were in here. I was having a hard time.
We're going to call tonight's meeting to order. Commissioner Clark, if you will, please give tonight's invocation.
Bow your head, please. Father God, we thank you so much for this opportunity we get to meet. And we pray that we bring glory to your name tonight at this meeting. We ask for safety for our police officers, our firemen, as they keep us safe. We pray that they are safe in those duties. Father, we ask for peace, grace, and wisdom tonight for our community and for the commissioners here to make decisions. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Roll call.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Here.
Commissioner Thorne,
Here.
Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Carter,
Here.
Commissioner Jordan,
Here.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Here.
Commissioner Skeen,
Here.
Commissioner Brumbelow.
Here.
Has the commission had a chance to look at last month's minutes? And if so, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
Before we get started tonight in the business, what we're going to do, we are going to move item number 7 as our first item tonight for the essence of time. Some housekeeping rules on that. We will hold everybody outside of the applicant to 3 minutes, those speaking for or against, to try to also be storage of time. So we will be timing that outside of the applicant coming forward. So with that, we've got a Mackenville Square PUD, amendment to the Hernando Hill PUD, and that is a request for a PUD amendment for 4 acres consisting of 3 lots. The subject property is on the west side of Mackenville Road, north of Byhalia Road, in Section 6, Township 3, Range 7. Austin?
Yes, sir. This is project number L1637. As you mentioned, this is a zoning map amendment and a preliminary development plan approval proposal to revise the Hernando Hills PUD for 4 acres to a mixed-use development. Doug Thornton of AERC is representing John Stevenson of Mackenville Square LLC, who owns the property. And as you mentioned, it is on the west side of Mackenville, north of Byhalia Road, Section 6, Township 3, Range 7. The original Hernando Hills PUD was approved in 1988 and was amended in 1994 to include 342 lots on 279.2 acres. There's a variety of lot sizes ranging from 8,000 square feet to 3 acres, and there's an approved conditional use for a recreation facility, which is currently a golf course. The excerpts from that plan are in your staff report. Relative to the comprehensive plan, this parcel's future land use map designation is master plan residential. And so there's a variety of subsets with that designation in the comprehensive plan, and the applicable on the proposal tonight is a category to provide modern, attractive, personal and professional commercial facilities with access needs that demand locations along major arterial roadways. And that map is also included in your staff report. The discussion relative to the zoning text, since this is a amendment to the zoning map and the PUD, are the 3 criteria that were legally required to consider in a zoning application, and I'll read those for the record. How this proposed amendment would conform to the general development plan, why this existing zoning district classification of the property in question is inappropriate or improper, and that a major economic, physical, or social change, if any, have occurred in the vicinity of the project in question that were not anticipated by the general development plan and have substantially altered the basic character of the area, which make the proposed amendment appropriate. The applicant has responded to those 3 questions, and those responses are in your staff report. And I won't go through them for the sake of time, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to give you my opinion. Specific to the development plan, I'll go through the generalities of the plan, what's proposed, and the applicant is here for a presentation after I'm done if you have any questions. There's proposed to be 3 mixed-use buildings, and that's shown in the attached site plan in your staff report. All materials appear to be in conformance with applicable design standards, but if approved, this will be required to go through a full design review package with our staff. And so the renderings you see do appear to be, but anything that's submitted physically in our department will go through a secondary review. The proposed development has direct access to Mackenville Road, and all parking is proposed to be on the west side of the building, off of the street. So the intent is to protect the pedestrian walkway that's currently constructed along Mackenville. And like I said, all the building elevations and site plan is in your staff report. Building A is proposed to be 4 floors. The bottom floor is 8,000 roughly square feet of retail and or restaurant use. The full list of uses and prohibited uses are included in your staff report, and I'll go through those in just a minute. The second and third floor are proposed to be office or loft, up to 8 lofts per floor. The 4th floor of the building A is proposed to be office, roughly 5,000 square foot of gross area with about a 3,000 square foot terrace. Buildings 2 and 3 are proposed to be the same, with the exception of the availability of loft is requested on the 4th floor of each, phase 2 and phase 3, so building B and building C. So with all this being said, the maximum number of units proposed would be 64. All uses on the 1st floor are proposed to be restaurant and or retail, and that list I'll go over here in just a second. And all upper floors on buildings 2 and 3 are either office or loft, however the final build out is. And on building 1, the 4th floor is proposed to be
strictly office. The setbacks are listed in your staff report and are pretty common to buildings of this size. It's 12-foot build line to build line, and adjacent to the golf course, the 10-foot building setback. But like I said, the parking lot will be in the rear, so I don't expect that to be an issue. The building height limitation is proposed to be 65 feet from top of parapet or midpoint of exposed roof. The reason that's delineated in your staff report is the PUD zoning designation does not have a maximum height requirement, so we required it to be listed in the staff report, and the applicant's requesting 65 feet to accommodate the 4-story building. The parking requirements are also dictated on an individual basis, PUD to PUD, and the calculations you see in your staff report for retail sales and service, 1 space for 200 net square foot, office or professional 1 to 300, commercial rec is 1 space per 100, and the lofts are 1 space per unit. 2 to 3 bedroom lofts are 1.5 space per unit. And the reason it's listed like that is because we would not know the ultimate build out each floor and the exact delineation of what is what. So those calculations are what we will use for the size of the parking the lot that would be required in the rear. Following tonight's recommendation, approval or denial, this recommendation will be heard at the August 16th, 2022 Board of Aldermen meeting. A positive recommendation would come with all your comments, and a negative recommendation would carry forward the need for a supermajority vote from the Board of Aldermen. So they would need 5 votes if y'all turn it down tonight. In your staff report, I've included proposed motions to approve, deny, and/or table. And so I would request any motions tonight, we do reference those criteria as your legal basis of approval, denial, or tabling. And there's excerpts from the applicant on his legal justification for rezoning, his full plan proposal for building elevations, exact dimensions, site plans, and like I said, there is the existing PUD. I printed that as well in your staff report just for reference of what's surrounding it. From a zoning perspective. With that being said, the applicant is available for questions, and I am as well.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Austin?
Oh, excuse me. I did receive 2 letters from neighbors prior to the meeting, and I included those. I printed them for you right there for your staff report. And then shortly before the meeting, I did receive a petition signed by folks in the area, and I'll just distribute so y'all can take a look at these as well.
Mr. Austin, do we know who did the petition?
Their signatures are on there, but I don't know who initiated it. They're here tonight. They could probably speak to it.
Okay, great.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Austin? Thank you, Austin. Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address in its entirety, please?
My name is John Stevenson. I live at 1589 Johnston Road, Hernando, Mississippi, 38632. Chairman, can I proceed?
You sure can.
Thank you.
Making me nervous on the ledge. No, I just didn't want to fall.
Hopefully it'll, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There we go. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. Thank you for allowing us to present our application. My name's John Stevenson. I just want to speak at a kind of high level about the application. If you have any technical questions, Doug Thornton from AERC is here to answer those. Someone competent that can answer those. What I'd like, instead of going through our entire application, because you've seen the packet, Austin has given you his detail, his recommendations. So I've done a lot of talking with the surrounding community, had issues brought up to me, both positive and negative. And so what I would rather do, instead of going over the entire development, just talk about 3 issues that have, of concern that have consistently come up with the people in the community that I've discussed. The first being traffic. I've heard it many times, how will this affect traffic for me in the neighborhood? Hernando Hills and Green Tea. And a few people in the broader Hernando community. So the traffic, as far as traffic in Hernando Hills and Green Tea, I would posit to you that it will have almost zero effect on interior neighborhood traffic. All entrances and exits are on Mackenville Road, which is a 5-lane arterial road entering and exiting into the interstate I-69. And neighborhood traffic has to work on Old Mackenville Road or Byhalia Road as a feeder before it can even reach. The other thing is, not only that, but because the golf course is part of the PUD and will border the development, what you're going to have is, we'll have golf cart parking in the development. People will be able to ride their golf carts. If they live on the course, they'll be able to walk. And that will in turn help anybody accessing the development from within Green Tea or Mackenville. That will help reduce traffic even further. The second thing I hear a lot about is, how will this affect my property values? I guess it's, so we've pulled quite a bit of academic research, and consistently we have found a few things. People, this kind of mixed land use, mixed use development has a positive effect on the surrounding community. You see increased property values, frankly, through the community as a whole within a certain radius, reduced crime because of it, because they make communities more walkable. In that, more people out, less opportunity for crime in a lot of ways when people are looking. Housing, and in fact, the closer you are to the development, the higher your property values get. I would have never thought this, but it's kind of one of those counterintuitive. The closer you get to a mixed-use development of this kind, with a single-family residential house, the higher the property value is going to be. It's very common to see anywhere from 5 to 15% increases in the surrounding single-family residential homes, affecting to their property values. And then you see a general halo effect from the development between half a mile to a mile away, as long as it's within walking distance. And I think this will be greater in this respect, because I think it'll positively affect both Hernando Hills and Green Tea neighborhood, because the prevalence of people having golf carts driving around, because it is a golf course community. I also had a couple of people come up to me before the meeting, and I just want to throw this in there. They were asking me, well, is this just the start of you converting the entire golf course into commercial/residential? And what I have to say is we own the golf course, and we have invested over $2 million into the golf course over the last 4 years, increasing the facilities, new tennis courts, new swimming pools, renovating the clubhouse. We've invested $150,000 over the last 4 years just in paving cart path. I spend about $660,000 to $680,000 a year just maintaining the golf course greens and grass. We're not going anywhere with the golf course. I've put too much money into it. Frankly, I love it. I love being able to drive 4 minutes from my house to the golf course that we own. I think it's a good asset for Hernando, and I'm telling y'all right now, the golf course is going nowhere. This reason we're asking for this is, frankly, Mackenville Road changed, and we have roughly 1,500 linear feet of road frontage, and we have a beat-up old maintenance building that's sitting there, and this seemed like a much better use of that property than to leave it like it is. The final concern I hear consistently are about lofts. People have concerns about residential lofts, and they say, why so many? The one answer, economics. There's a reason Hernando doesn't have Class A commercial space. There's a reason why we have a lot of strip centers and a lot of beat-up old strip centers, because the rents in Hernando cannot sustain Class A space. In general, commercial rents in Hernando are about 30% less than South Haven. And South Haven is not even considered a premium market in the Memphis metropolitan area. If we were on Poplar Avenue in Memphis, this wouldn't even be a discussion. It could support it. But if you want Class A space, if you want beautiful architecture, if you want quality buildings, we have to be able to pay for it. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. Hernando does have something going for it, and that is residential rents are extraordinarily high in comparison to other markets. So what we can do is put lofts in and use that to subsidize the cost of the building and subsidize the commercial so that we can have upscale quality, high quality commercial and residential units. These are not, this is not HUD housing. These units will rent on average between $2,000 and $2,700 a month. They're going to run, we've already had an NBA player who's training at the field house approach us about renting this for after serious workouts. We've talked to, since we've announced, we've talked to several people, German origin, who are talking about coming over, working at AWG, looking, this is the kind of place they like to live. They're young professionals and people who are used to this kind of thing, and Hernando doesn't have anything for them right now. And we have, frankly, a serious housing shortage. This does help that, and it's high quality. So finally, what I'd like to say is, y'all have a decision to make. And it's a decision that other communities have had to make. Because, like I tell my children all the time, change can be scary. I understand that. But sometimes change is just change, and if you embrace it, change can be good. And what I would say to the commissioners and the community as a whole is you have an opportunity to embrace change. You have an opportunity to bring a development to Hernando that is unlike anything we have here now, but will meld into the community architecturally with the history that we have here as well. And what I would say to you is don't be like communities that have just said, no, we don't want this, it's different, we don't want this. Those communities end up looking like Cordova, they end up looking like Hickory Hill, and they end up looking like Whitehaven. Because they just say no. The communities that say okay to change, but it's got to be the right kind of change, it's got to be high quality, those communities look like Germantown, Collierville, Madison, Mississippi, and Franklin, Tennessee, with exceptional property values and exceptional walkable communities that maintain their cohesiveness and don't degenerate over time. Now, I'm absolutely certain people are going to be here tonight and speak both for and against this development. And what I would say to add to that is we have been running a social media campaign to gauge and communicate with the public at large. We've had over 1,300 likes on our page in a week and a half's time, which is unheard of for something like this. We've had over 300 positive comments on our post as well. I would say there's a broader community that, and this is just a sampling of the comments, there's a broader community in Hernando that wants this. And I am not deaf to the concerns of people who live around this, that have legitimate concerns and should be heard, and we should probably make some kind of compromises. I had talked to several people before who were concerned about screening, landscape screening, being able to have buffers. We'll have to address that. That needs to be addressed with them. But, as they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Hernando, I know that y'all cannot consider financial implications, but this project produces over $850,000 a year in property and sales taxes for the state, county, and the schools and the city. Just $200,000 a year goes to the city. It's with no additional infrastructure added and no additional maintenance costs for the city. So I would open it up to any questions that you might have.
Questions or comments from Mr. Stevenson?
With the exception of the bank that's to the south, is the rest of the property completely bordered by the golf course property, or does it touch any residents?
It will touch 2 residences on the north side, and both of those right now have some pine trees there, but additional barrier will need to be installed there if we're to completely block the view. And I'm open to engaging with those property owners to see exactly what they would like.
And what part of the, I guess, the Mackenville project will touch that? Will it be parking lot?
Parking lot.
Parking lot.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson, you had mentioned the research that you put up on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Do you have copies of that research?
That has already been provided to the planning director. I'm sure he can give that to you. And if not, if I have some that I have not referenced in this, on that presentation, I'll be happy to supply it.
And also, you mentioned 300 positive comments.
Yes, sir.
How many negative comments did you get? Did you count those?
We did not count those because I would say that the negatives were probably, I'd say somewhere around 70 to 80 total negatives, to be fair. But I will say that a lot of the negatives were repeats by the same people over and over again. But to be fair, 70 to 80. It wasn't 3.
Mr. Austin, did I hear we were talking about 65 feet?
Yes, sir.
What's the height? It's 35, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Is it 35 feet is the maximum?
In C2, commercial, 35 foot's the highest, but in PUD, a height maximum is not presented. So basically, you present that in your PUD.
What's the C2?
35.
How far apart is Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 going to be?
So we anticipate Phase 1 hopefully starting by the end of this year, and that will take about a year to complete. Based on the absorption rate we have on the building, we'll start Phase 2 by itself, or we'll start Phase 2 and 3 together. So I would anticipate 1 year per building unless we move that forward, to be conservative.
Mr. Austin, what's going in across the street? North of Mackenville? Is it north?
It's the Madison Lakes development. It's a
Madison
PUD
Lakes.
as well. The frontage is, as of now, is presented to be retail, but it does have to be amended with the realignment of Mackenville Road. So
There's planned retail to go in on that side?
on the frontages as of now, but that plan is going to have to change because it doesn't account for the new realignment of Mackenville Road. So I expect it to be something similar, but that's what's on the plan now.
Mr. Stevenson, one of the concerns I have is the height of this building, because although you may be bordering two houses to the north, I see the cluster of homes directly behind this building, and, you know, with the presentation of lofts, if that got approved, and somebody's looking out their back window, watching some of these people swim and stuff, what are we gonna do to border that?
Well, first of all, if you would look at the topography, right now, very large trees separate, and I'm talking about trees that are 60, 70 feet tall, large mature oaks and sweet gum and some others. That's
not all that
and
to say.
then we're also, because we're going to have to move our 10 green to accommodate this, we're going to have to elevate a section of land that will also block. Again, we're not against adding additional screening. I think we could handle that in the design review stage with the planning staff. But, and as far as the height goes, you know, that height requirement for the city was, well, anyway, I won't speak for the city. I hope that answers your question.
No, I mean, how tall is
It's gotta be
52 feet high. How much was,
One question for you about the finished floor elevations of the buildings themselves. So right now, it's kind of a hole there, right? I mean, are you planning on being level with Mackenville or above?
what is that?
And
Architecture above?
Yeah, right now, we're thinking
Will
slightly.
you state your name
sorry,
and address?
Sorry, Doug Thornton, 5289 Cane Ridge Road, Hernando, AERC, which is at 3342 West Valley Street, Hernando.
Thank you.
Right now, we have the first floor slightly above Mackenville, almost the top of where that retaining wall is now, the little concrete wall. It's kind of what we're thinking, so it'd be kind of on a plinth, you know, raised. And so, you know, we're measuring from that point up. And, you know, part of the appeal on not only the first floor retail, but also the apartments, or the loft, 12 feet, trying to get 12-foot ceilings so we can have, you know, premium spaces. These are not 8-foot high ceiling type lofts. They're more of the 12-foot high lofts, and that's the other reason for the height request.
thank you.
Mr. Thornton or Ms. Stevens, either one, on page 14 of the packet, there's an image here that shows the entrance from Mackenville to connect to the bank, but the plan doesn't show the bank's
The
parking
bank
lot.
will not be connected.
So this is an old image? or-
At one point, we had had discussions with the bank, and they had given us a preliminary yes, and then they decided they didn't want,
So there'll be no connection between the bank?
no, just a walking path that a golf
Well, I mean,
cart
like a
can
drive
access.
connection,
No,
it
sir,
won't be?
no, sir.
Hey, John, on the 65 feet, does that include the top of the architecture, or is that to the
That's the top of the architecture.
So how much feet is between the top of the roof and the top of the architecture?
Right now, we'd have probably a minimum of 48 to 50 feet to the roof, and then, you know, your parapets and some of your pediments and that type thing is what would take up the remaining 15 feet or so.
So about 48 feet to the
Right,
top of the roof?
48 to 50 feet to the top of the roof. Mhm.
Okay. So I think this board approved with a variance, the Hilton Hotel, which was 52 feet in height. So I think that's interesting, something to definitely bring up. And I think they had the same concern there was that there might be people looking from the hotel into someone's house, but, you know, that was all, I think, taken into consideration. And like, the you know, the trees and whatnot was obviously going to be barriers for that to happen. I mean, looking at the plans itself, I mean, I guess if you had binoculars, I guess it would work, but it'd be strange. But anyway, I think that's important to point out.
And a lot of it too is how we do the window design. You know, if we can kind of put them as deep windows to focus those views and not only focus to the course, but also screen to the residential. I think
Yeah.
we can do it both in the architectural design as well as.
Yeah, I think that's
landscape.
what Hilton did as well, to address those concerns.
Right.
Any other questions or comments for the applicant?
Thank you very much.
Again, be reminded that as I call for anybody for or against this application, we will hold time to 3 minutes. And if it becomes very redundant to one side, we will just, take that in consideration and ask that that not, be said to hear that 100 times, one way or the other. So at this time, is there anyone here for or against this application? If so, please come forward, state your name and address.
Be very respectful of your time. I'll start.
We got you.
Oh, you got me covered. Okay, thank you. My name's Mark Gardner. I live at 3333 Hunter Road North in South Haven, and you might wonder why I'm here at a Hernando Planning Commission hearing. I wanted to rise in support of this project. Some of you know me. I have a couple of roles in this county. I serve as the District 2 County Supervisor on the Board of Supervisors. I've been there 11 years, and I'm also a real estate broker, so I have an interest in quality development from the standpoint of my other day job besides my county. All of DeSoto County benefits, he alluded to the tax revenue for the school board, for the Board of Supervisors, and for the city when we build quality developments. And I've seen the quality of John's work before several times, and I know they do good work. Here's a developer that lives in the community. He's involved in the community. He's even going to move his office to this development. He gives back to the community through many charitable organizations, through Fellowship of Christian Athletes and other organizations. I've seen him involved. And yeah, there's all kinds of arguments. I hear it every day as a county supervisor. Every new rooftop brings more cars. And it's my job as county supervisor, it's the Board of Aldermen's job to make sure the infrastructure is in place to support that growth. But that's not a reason to turn a project down. Has there been a change in the character of the neighborhood? Sure. 269 was a game changer in this county. We've all seen it. The Mackenville Road. Board of Supervisors believed so much in Mackenville Road development, we wrote $1 million check to go along with the $1 million check from the Board of Aldermen and to get that Mackenville interchange and Mackenville Road improvements. So we think it's a great development. We're excited about it. The more developed, we built about 1,700 new houses in DeSoto County last year. That's 1,700 houses paying taxes that weren't there at the beginning of the year. That helps keep all of our tax base low. And your Board of Aldermen don't have to raise millage. We don't have to raise millage when we have quality development. So I just wanted to rise in support of this. I say all of DeSoto County benefits. Yeah, I live in South Haven now. I grew up in Nesbitt. I'm a proud graduate of Hernando High School, so I got roots in this community. So thank you for your time.
I'm Sarah Jessica Winders. I live at 791 Classic Drive South, Hernando. As Mr. Stevenson said, I'm one that backs up to it. I can't say that I was excited at first. The height is a big concern. I moved here in 2009. So sorry. I'm a lifelong resident of DeSoto County. Grew up in Olive Branch my whole life. Chose Hernando to live here. I'm very impressed of the small town feel that y'all have kept. Very impressed of the growth and the way that y'all have allowed that. However, hearing that they're going to be 12-foot lofts, the ceilings are 12 feet, driving around Hernando, and I know they'll do a fantastic job designing it. I have no concerns about that. It's just my backyard, I see the maintenance shop as it is. I currently do not have any trees. I have one tree in my backyard. And I talked to Mr. Stevenson before this started, and he is very willing to work. I understand that. Just with the walkability, I think I would feel more comfortable with maybe like a brick wall of a certain height around the premises, just to kind of keep people out of my yard. I know it's a golf course, just to kind of border that. I think I would feel more comfortable with that. I've noticed in driving around Hernando that there are no 4-story buildings except for the hotel. And I know y'all have spoken on that, but the height was a big concern of mine, plus the walkability. I get that. It's connected to the walkways. That's great. I just don't want someone to be able to walk into my yard as easily, if that makes sense. And my yard, it floods as it is, and I know they're going to raise that elevation. And Mr. Stevenson, in his proposal, has said that he would create correct me, what is it, water retention. Yes, so that will be added to the golf course. He said that would be part of the golf course as well. But just my two main concerns would be the height of the building, with especially being lofts and me being right there by it. That's a big concern. And the parking, it's 4 acres. Now, I'm not in development, I'm in education, so I don't really know, but 3 buildings and parking lot seems a lot to fit on 4 acres. And with the new Mackenville, they've cut through ours. They've added an extension to our subdivision to get in. So I have no doubt this will be popular. I have no doubt about it. If they run out of parking, what's to stop them from parking on our extension of our street with such walkability and walking to the new development? So that's also a concern of just extra people parking on my street that do not live there and that are going there. So those are my 2 concerns. I'm not for it or gifted. I get it. I guess I'm just indifferent towards it. Do I think it'll be good for Hernando? Yes. Am I excited that it's my backyard? No. So I'm kind of torn, but if there could be some compromises made, all the apartments are 2-story, with exception of your downtown where you have commercial, and then lofts above it. Those are still 3. So the height, then that would be my main concerns, being as close as I am. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I clarify one thing?
Sorry, yes.
So your concern about the height of the building is not so much the sight line, it is security?
Well, that as well, yes, but if there were plans to maybe fence it off, and I'm not talking like a wood fence or an iron fence. I would want something more secure so that I feel safer at my house, maybe like a brick fence, a brick that's going to look nice and fit the design. That would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. Yes, so my safety and plus them looking in my backyard is a big thing.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Anyone else here for or against this application?
I'm Bill Moyer, 1250 Mackenville, Hernando. And I just wanted to, I know there's probably a lot of folks that might not think this is a great idea maybe, but I've lived over there since 1986, so when you went down Mackenville, it was shoulder to shoulder because it was potholes. So I've seen all of that happen, okay? I was house number 6 over there. So when I think about John and Doug and what they put together, I mean, I've never seen John do junk. And so I don't think for a second that what he submitted is wouldn't aesthetically improve on Mackenville in that corner and what's going on over there right now. I watch John in construction. I own Final Touch Security, so we do a lot of work, and I do some work for John. And I'm not up here because of that. I'm up here on my own free will. And I see $1 million houses. So I mean, he's just not putting up stuff. And even the square foot houses that I go into that he's putting up, I mean, I have a conversation with my employees there. I mean, we discuss how they look nicer. You know, so I'm just telling you, I don't think that I'm fixing to see a piece of junk down the street, okay? I can see this from my house. It's not in my backyard. I will get to use my 10-foot sidewalk, y'all got me. I can walk down there and go to it. And I think the sidewalk and all that foot traffic's a good thing, because, I mean, there's a lot of folks going up and down the street in front of my house, and, you know, I didn't even know they existed. But now they do, and we wave at them, and we've met some of them. So I think all this is a really seriously good improvement. And just knowing John, I mean, I think if there's some people in here that may not like the way something looks, I can already tell you he's going to work with it and he's going to get it right. And I also know he didn't submit to y'all something disorganized. He may be one of the most organized people I know. So you probably got, I hadn't even looked at it, okay, y'all's submittal. You know, so I can only imagine that it's got to be a high quality, you know, what y'all looking at. So there's nothing shortcut, and he knows right where it's at. He knows exactly what it's going to cost, and he knows the revenue to bring in, you know. And so I believe in it, and I would just suggest that y'all approve it, because I think that we need it, because we do have a lot more folks coming into this place, and I think it's an upscale application, and I think it goes along with what I've seen y'all doing up to this point. And so I thank you for the opportunity.
My name's Ruben Sadhu. Live at 661 Green Tea Lake West. Actually, when I was 3, my parents moved from Senatobia to Green Tea, so I've been there since 1984. I've seen the golf course come in from a Memphis stone and gravel pit. And my question, I have really more or less have a question. And Mr. Stevenson, I met him today, and I asked him specifically if this was related, if you change this, what else will change with the golf course? I'm not talking about making it all residential, but where other parts be changed, because it's a valid concern. We love the golf course community. But my specific question to the Planning Commission is if Mr. Stevenson, and oh, by the way, I have a personal relationship with Doug. He's done all of our buildings. We own DeSoto Children's Clinic, and so I know the kind of work that Doug puts out. I'm aware. But if Mr. Stevenson puts in this very nice setup that he's got, will it force Madison Lakes to their buildings to match his? Because I've seen the preliminary a long time ago, the Madison Lakes reports, the things that have been presented. Will his building make theirs nicer?
We have design review standards that uphold those things too, so naturally speaking, we probably could say that it would be that. You know, you're not going to want to be outdone more than other, but again, we have design review standards that are in place it doesn't matter what he presents to us, they have to fall in lines with that, so.
So they don't necessarily have to match, but as long as, so what I'm trying to get at is if there's something just really well done over here, I would hate for something not to be so well done over here. And they're right next to each other. I mean, both subdivisions.
I think what Mr. Carter's saying is that they have to meet.
Standards.
Yeah, they have to meet or exceed the design review standards. And if Mr. Stevenson's clearly probably going to go above and beyond that. Now, it's understandable that being the first one on the block, you're going to put pressure on anybody else to come in to raise their standards to meet the new standard. But as long as they meet the city's design review standards.
And it's passable. Yeah, that was my only question. I'm not for or against it. I've been there a long time, so that was my question.
Thanks, sir. My name is Dan Cochran. My wife and I live at 787 Classic Drive South. I believe we would be, I think Mr. Stevenson mentioned 2 houses that would back up to this development. If there are 3 houses that would back up to it, I'm number 3. So I'm not sure what discussions have been had with those other neighbors, but if this is approved against my objection and many others, I would like to be included in that discussion. I'm not here to question Mr. Stevenson's goodness as a man. I'm sure he's a good man. I'm sure he does good work. But we moved to Hernando 10, 11 years ago because we like the quality of life here. We like that little neighborhood, and our house backs up to the 10th green. And when we moved in 11 years ago, there were many, many mature oak trees within just beyond our backyard. Well over half of them were cut down in the last 5 years. So I have concerns about not only the development backing up to our backyard, but the landscaping that's been mentioned. I see a lot of detailed planning has gone in to this project, but when you mentioned landscaping and amenities as far as houses that are very close to the development, that's just in the planning stages, but everything else has been thoroughly detailed, but there doesn't seem to be any real plan to provide some kind of barrier, aesthetically speaking, between the neighborhood and the development. I wish Mr. Stevenson well. I hope he continues to succeed as a businessman, but we would like for him to do it somewhere else. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Dan, I think what we're here for tonight is to rezone the area, and I think all of those, points that you brought out will come later, and we'll be able to address those as a board. It's really two separate things, but I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. My name's Mark Harden. I live at 612 Dudley. Unlike a lot of the people who have spoken before, I am a relatively new resident to Hernando. I've been here 3 years. This is my 3rd year. One of the things that attracted me to Hernando was, number one, the growth, and somebody mentioned the safety and stability of the community. The growth part was a major factor. I mean, we were looking for, my wife and I and kids were looking for a community that was going to grow, that was going to present opportunities for us, not only in residential, but in retail. If I can get retail space close to me to where my wife don't have to go to South Haven or Olive Branch or Memphis to spend retail dollars, I'm all for that. That safety plays into that. This is a facility that will allow that to happen. Restaurants the same way. I think that we travel a lot to Memphis to eat. South Haven, I think keeping myself close to home. I travel a lot from my work, and when I get home in the afternoons, I don't want to drive to the square in Memphis to eat. One of the things, too, that I'm very glad to see with this project is the loft buildings. I'm the father of 2 20-somethings that have graduated college that really don't know where they want to go. With the housing market like it is, the lofts present a pretty good opportunity for them to live close to us until they do figure out where they want to live. So that was a very appealing thing for me. On a personal note, I've known John now for about 10 years. For those of you in the area that live in the area, I can tell you this: John's a man of his word. If he tells you guys he's going to work with you, he's going to work with you. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. I also believe that this is a project, as the gentleman too before me said, will set the standard for everything that happens on Mackenville to 269. Everybody if John doesn't, if you guys don't pass this for him, you're going to have to talk about it with somebody else, because that's an area that's going to be developed by somebody. You've got a guy here that's put an application together that is very detailed, that's not going to scrimp and scrape. It's going to be first class from the day he starts to the day he finishes. And if it's not him, it's going to be somebody else. From that corner all the way to 269, there's going to be applicants put in. And so this is a good opportunity for the commission to pass for someone that's going to set the standard for that development. Thank you for your time. I appreciate what you guys do for our community.
Anyone else here for or against?
I'm Kay Valentine. I live at 697 Fairway Trail. I certainly had no intention to get up here and to speak. The main thing that I'm concerned with is the water issues. Everybody in Hernando has water issues. Hernando Hill has major water issues. I know that neighbors have spoke with Mr. Stevens about some of our water issues on 69 on Fairway Trail. And so we've spoke about this, and it's to the point of getting in my house. And if I tell you how much money I have put in my backyard, because it did get in my house, had to put all new floors in. But now I have not spoken personally with him about this. This is something else I was waiting to talk with the alderman and with Chip to let everybody come out and have a meeting with him, because we all have problems. But the height of the building, and they're gonna go in there, and there's gonna be dirt moving, and it's going to affect that. And we're gonna have more water issues than we have now. And I don't think y'all have a subdivision in Hernando that doesn't have water issues. But that is my main concern. I'm not real thrilled, just like the other guy said, I'm not thrilled with this retail stuff as close as it is to our backyard. I mean, there's a lot of people where they're gonna be in the backyard and they're gonna be up there looking out, you know. Of course, the swimming suit is not a problem because it's away from that. But it's just not a great place for it to be put. I mean, or that much being put into it. But my main concern with the whole thing is the water issues. So that's something I'd like for y'all to take into consideration. Thank you.
Bill Brown. I live at 770 Bahaga Road, which is probably a quarter mile or thereabout to this project. I was thinking about how long I had lived there and was kind of shocked to add it up and figure out I've been there for about 30 years. And it's 30 years I've seen a lot of change. 30 years ago, Mackenville did not go north of Bahaga Road. Neither bank was there. The church was not there. When the first bank came, there were some neighbors saying, this is going to be the end of the world because we're going to have commercial. Well, no problem with it. Second bank came, same thing, no problem. Church came, way too much traffic. Well, there's traffic on Sunday morning, probably Wednesday night, but that's to be expected. It's not a problem. When Mackenville was extended, people said, well, that's going to create traffic problems. Well, it didn't, except for the school. But I personally think schools are necessary. I wouldn't call them a necessary evil, but they're certainly necessary. So sure, there are traffic problems because of the school, but that's because you have concentrated flows of traffic at certain hours of the day, and then you don't have problems. But there has been an absolute game changer. Mark mentioned I-69 and Mackenville, but when the city and the county had the foresight to 5-lane Mackenville, that takes care of any potential traffic problems that might exist. That was a purpose in spending the millions of dollars that it took to do that. I'm very familiar with the site where this is for a couple reasons. One, it has an absolutely beautiful view from it. And for years I thought someone needs to do something to utilize that beautiful view. The second thing that is obvious is that from the time Mackenville was first extended, and certainly from the time that it was widened to what it is now, it was obvious that that location would be commercial at some point in time. When you talk about commercial, you've got multiple options. It could be a convenience store. Well, I wouldn't want to see that. It could be a fast food restaurant. Well, okay, but I'd much, much rather see the project that Mr. Stevens has proposed than any of those. One thing I don't think was mentioned, but I understand that the buildings will actually be two-fronted, I should say. So the view that you see from the back, from the golf course, from my house, will look just as nice as a view from the front. That's not going to happen with a convenience store Not likely to happen with fast food, but it can happen with a development of this sort. I went the other day to look again at Silo Square, and this is a project very similar to Silo Square. It's a great project. It's great looking. It's a huge asset to South Haven. It's added some character to South Haven that South Haven didn't have prior to that, frankly. Hernando has character. Hernando will always have character. You've done a great job of preserving the character of Hernando, but we all know Hernando will grow. There's nothing that could possibly be done to stop the growth in Hernando. But what you can do, and what you have done so far, and I would like to see you continue to do, is to see that the growth is high quality with projects such as this. Now, I realize everyone is scared of change. I'm scared of change sometimes. But when Mr. Stevenson came to me and asked me what I thought about this, I thought, I don't know what I think about this. But as I looked at it, looked at the drawings, looked at the concept, I became a fan of the project. Let me talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, the lofts. I know people have talked about that. People are scared of rental property. But I will tell you, as soon as Christian's phone quits ringing, I will tell you that I would certainly be happy to have neighbors in this type of building, knowing that they're paying rentals of, I think you said, $2,000 to $2,700 a month. That's not the type of rental property that people are concerned about. That's the type of rental property that you see in high-income areas. People who don't want the maintenance of the house, or people who are planning to live somewhere temporarily, single people, young families, things of that nature.
And no disrespect, we got your 3 minutes and.
All right, I'm sorry, I'll wrap you up. As those of you, thank you. Those of you who know me know I could spend.
I will ask that this room have a sense of respect. I will ask that the room have a sense of respect when there is someone up here speaking, though. Please hold your applause as Mr. Brown finishes up.
I think the applause was for me ending, so I will end. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here for or against? Please come forward. Again, despite being for or against this, we do need to show signs of respect to all those speaking so that we can hear them. So we just ask that you hold your applauses and your sighs and woos for that, please. Yes, ma'am.
Judy Kendall, 799 Palmer. And I'm not for or against, but I want aesthetically pleasing. I don't want the cart barn behind my house because there are 2 lots that have been supposedly sold right behind my house on Palmer. I have no clue, but I know it's a big lot and it would be available for a wonderful maintenance barn. But again, I want to make sure that the commitment for aesthetically pleasing is in the plans. As in, I think the parking lot, definitely, if it's not big enough, it needs to be treated. It needs to be a committed plan. And that's all I would ask, because the growth is going to happen. I understand that. But aesthetically pleasing, and God, please don't put the parking barn, the maintenance barn behind my house. But if you do, even that wouldn't upset me if he commits to trees, more trees, and landscape. That's it. Thank you.
Let's see if we have any more for or against, and then we'll have you come back up. Yes, sir, I'll let you do that in just a moment. Is there anyone else here for or against? Mr. Stevenson, you'd like to, and you'll have to address the commission as you answer the question to the.
Yes, sir. Just to answer her question, the property that she's mentioning behind her house is the old Green Tea club, pool house, and tennis courts. That is currently under contract. We are selling it, and it's supposed to close in August. And that the owner, the purchaser, told me his plan is it has to be rezoned residential before he can build, but he's planning to build a single house at that location. just so she understands that.
Well,
So
thank
no cart barn behind her.
We'll also, everyone understand, we're hearing a different application, so that's something totally different, and that's something you can do outside of the, I appreciate you addressing that, but that's totally something y'all can talk to Mr. Stevenson one-on-one unless it's presented tonight. Again, this is for the amendment of the PUD as we're hearing it tonight. Is there anyone else here for or against this application? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen of rezoning requested by Doug Thornton, ARC LLC, representing John Stevenson with Mackenville Square LLC, owner of the property, zoning map amendment, preliminary development plan approval of 4.0 acres, revision to the Hernando Hills PUD, Planned Unit Development District, Mackenville Square, located on the west side of Mackenville Road and north of Byhalia Road in Section 6, Township 3, Range 7, based upon the following findings, 1, 2, and 3 of the staff report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeens?
Aye.
The motion to approve passes. If you're not here to hear any more items, if you'd like to leave, we'll give you an opportunity to do that.
No, you can't have it for 2 minutes. Sorry. No problem. I don't know what's ours and what's, okay. All right. And you got the clicker?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
It was a good time.
I know you started in person, don't live in the city. That's why I asked the question.
Right.
I knew I was getting an answer.
It's in the agreements with the,
Yeah, I mean, if we'd had 20 people show up against it, it would have been one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, no one was.
Give it to Crystal.
We're going back to item 1623.
So commissioners, we'll start back over to the initial number 1 and follow that as presented, so. All right, now we can get back to what will be item number 2 at this point, and that is a request to approve project text and preliminary site plan for Gilbreth Ridge, PUD, 54.13 acres, 99 residential lots located south of Holly Springs Road, west of Getwell Road, in Section 21, Township 3 South, Range 7 West, Zone PUD, Planned Unit Development District.
Apologize, I'm sharing some contact information.
And Commissioners, that will be in old businesses. That was something we tabled last month to be heard this month.
Sorry about that. Yes, sir. Project number PL 1623. This application was tabled at our last meeting. The commission wanted some additional information on the status of the tree cutting, some appropriate buffer yards if applicable, and then they wanted some information on the streetscape. And so I'll skim through the staff report just to give us an update of where we are, and then I'll explain what's updated. As previously stated, this was rezoned to PUD at the May 18th, 2021 meeting with the understanding that this project text would come back, and so we're bringing it back in front of you. There's applicable language from the comprehensive plan listed in your staff report, which recommends the PUD's designation on master plan residential. So this is in line with the general development plan's recommendation, and the average lot sizes are comparable with the surrounding area. And the minimum home square footage, I know that did come up at the last meeting. We did confirm that the minimum home square footages in this development plan are substantially larger than the existing. So St. Ives, the minimum square footage was 1,800, and Jefferson was 2,000, and as presented, these minimum square footages are 2,400. So that did come up at the last meeting, just for clarity. The discussion, just like as we spoke last time, this is an amendment to a PUD technically by what we're hearing tonight. So the 3 criteria that I read at the last application are still applicable with our decision-making tonight of how the proposed development conforms to the development plan, is the existing zoning district improper, and what changes have occurred to justify this request. As I mentioned, the minimum home square footage is 2,400 square foot. There are 99 proposed lots. The minimum lot size is 9,600 square foot. This does range up to almost an acre, 40,000 square feet. On the last 2 pages of your staff report is the supplemental information that y'all requested last time. They did a drone shot with the property lines and shows where the trees are now in relative to where their master plan shows their common open space. And so it gives you a better idea of kind of what the site is. There is active grading going on. The engineer has approved a grading permit, but all common open space that you see as treed is proposed to remain, and the applicant can speak to that. On the last page of your staff report was another talking point from the last meeting about the streetscape, about what's this going to look like from Getwell Road and Holly Springs Road. And so the planting detail shows outside of right-of-way, they are proposing a streetscape with some plantings, masonry columns, and a 6-foot-high wooden fence, which is pretty typical on a streetscape. There are calculations on their common open space, and that has not changed from the last meeting. It's still at 11 acres, or roughly 20%, exclusive of medians and streetscapes. The overall density is still calculated at 1.8 dwelling units per acre, so there's been no change in the number of lots, the layout of the lots. And this is still in conformance with the comprehensive plan, which recommends 1 to 3 units per acre. And as last time, we did provide you motions to approve, deny, or table. The full project text is in your staff report, and then the applicant is here if you have any questions.
Questions or comments for Austin? Thank you, Austin. Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address?
Greg Smith, 2595 Country Club Road, Senatobia, with Menrop Engineering, representing the applicant. Hello again, and I'll be very brief. I'll answer any questions you have. I think the main concern was the trees, so what we did is I went out there and I staked off the the open area limits, told the contractor to stay out of there. So we're doing our best to save all the trees and accommodate open open spaces. So if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Questions or comments from Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I have a question really for Mr. Austin. We were talking last month about the percentage of trees does that meet that? Do we know?
We did find out that about a year or two ago, a logger came into this site and presented the picture you see in your staff report now. And so in the tree ordinance, the way it's presented is logging on a bona fide farming operation is excluded from the tree ordinance. And so it seems like that process is what created the conversation from the gentleman at the last meeting. What's going on now on site is site grubbing for surveying.
Right.
So that was probably the confusion. Now, the percentage of what was before the logging and after, I don't know the answer.
So is the picture we see not a current picture?
That's current.
That is current.
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
That was the issue about the logging that I wasn't aware of last time that I was here, and I do apologize for that. So, yeah, that picture was taken 2 weeks ago.
So from what we're saying, there are no more trees will be taken down?
No more than have to be. Common area
last
specialist.
conversation,
Yeah.
I do remember there being some discussion about a percentage and trying to keep us at a percentage. For our tree ordinance, what is the percentage that
It depends on the canopy. So it's like, it depends on hardwood caliper size, your existing canopy versus your proposed. And from what I understand, the percentage is that you can either keep it or you mitigate through a table. And so like there's a percentage of the tree you got rid of versus an amount you pay into a fund or you replant that tree. And so
Y'all done any kind of calculations on that? I mean, this sounds like something you'd have to sit down and put pen to paper.
No, it's really hard to calculate that. You can't really, you can look at it by land mass and compared to what's there now. I don't think there's been just a whole lot taken down. Plus, we're adding, red maple every 50 feet along all the streets, all the street frontages. So,
Yeah, that's my next question. Does
Yeah.
that count towards that, the streetscape?
replanting mitigation table can count. And so you'll notice a lot of.
The streetscaping is different from the residential area, right? Is that together as part of that math?
A lot of builders, what they'll do is replant it as they build the homes. And so you'll notice a lot of builders have the requirement of planting a 2-inch or 3-inch caliper tree in each front yard, but it depends on the total tree canopy. So it's kind of hard to say, we just need one in every front yard or the streetscape, just depending on the existing canopy.
So, and Greg, you were saying some of those trees still might have to go, depending on how you grade and where
and
homes go.
There's very few. It depends on what you call a tree. You got scrub bush, tons of it, this big around and bigger, this high as this roof, and you got a handful of decent sized trees, a lot of evergreens, a few hardwoods. I can tell you for certain everything along the ditch is going to stay, which is the vast majority of the mature growth. That's going to stay because we don't want to get up next to that ditch and get ourselves in trouble with the environmental people.
If you got something that's 1-2 inches in diameter and you got to take it out, you can easily put that back.
Yeah, and typically these builders that, particularly in this developer, the builders, they're going to put at least a tree back per lot. They don't always do, but that's typically what we're seeing. Plus, we're going to have all the trees along Getwell Road and Mackenville, not Mackenville, that's in my brain, Holly Springs. That, and with all the trees we're saving along the ditch back there, and the trees around the pond. There were some fairly nice trees around the large pond there, and those have all been flagged off. That area has to, pretty much with instructions to stay out, So.
Well, this new tree mitigation table, it's kind of, we're still getting our head wrapped around it, trying to. So how would that work? Would they finish the development and then figure out what the canopy is and then come back?
So that, to be honest, that is the big loophole, and because the logging is what really created the existing canopy to disappear. And so, but logging is an exempt activity in the tree ordinance. And so, in a perfect world, that would not be an exempt activity. And before we issued a grading permit, we would do a tree calculation, and that's what we'd establish the mitigation table off of. So
the grading permit has not been approved yet?
it has been.
It has been?
Yep.
Okay.
Today, actually, I think Joe Frank issued it today.
Now, is there any accountability going back to make sure that?
I can't speak previously, but going forward, I mean, any tree mitigation program, we would be required to go back and enforce it, but I don't know about in the past.
Trying to save the trees.
I understand, and I really do. People think about engineers and they say, well, they just clear cut everything, but I take that into mind when I do my design. I try to save everything I can. You can't always do it when the developer brings you something, especially like 5,000 feet lots. You can't save a tree, but there's some developments like this you can save some, and we try to do, and it makes the property values better. It's to our advantage, to the developer's advantage, to save as much as it can.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Smith? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here for or against this application? And do I have a motion?
A motion to approve the rezoning of parcel number 307-52100-0000900, which is a 54.13 acre tract located on the southwest corner of Holly Springs Road and Getwell Road in section 21, Township 3 West, Range 7 South, from the A Agricultural District to the PUD Planned Unit Development District, with a project text and preliminary development plan to be submitted for review and approval at a later date, based on the following findings, 1, 2, and 3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins? Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motion to approve passes. All right, new business, we've got item number 1 in the new business, or actually, item number 2 at this point. Request to approve a project text and preliminary site plan for Dunning Estates, PUD. The subject properties are located on the south side of East Valley Street, east of North View Street, and west of Northern Street. In Section 13 and 18, Township 3 South, Range 7 and 8 West. Austin?
Yes, sir. Project number PL 1586, and similar to the last application, to give you a little bit of background of how we got here, the applicant originally requested an R8 medium density residential zoning. It came in front of you all on the February 8th, 22 meeting, which was approved. In the meantime, between that and the April board meeting, it was realized that the 2 lots did not meet the minimum square footage of 8,000 feet. It was just slightly below. So at the April 5th board meeting, the applicant revised their request to be PUD to come back with the project text, and that's what tonight is that project text coming back. Surrounding zoning districts are C2 commercial to the south, R10 to the northeast and the west. Future land use category designated as mixed use. Recommended zonings of PUD, T&D, or C3. So as presented, the zoning is appropriate for the general development plan. As in the past 2 applications, the 3 criteria for zoning changes about the conformance to the development plan, whether or not the existing zoning district classification is improper, and what changes have occurred in the area to make this justified is still the applicable language we'll need to refer to in our motion. And the proposal for this PUD text is for 2 lots of roughly 5,000 square feet. The minimum setbacks of 20 foot, 5 foot, and 10 foot for front, side, and rear are relatively important. And so I went back and forth with the applicant on the front setback of the home in order to match the surrounding residential, so it doesn't sit farther back and really still protects the streetscape. And so that 20-foot front setback is what I'd recommend be the setback for the homes to match what's next door. And so as you're coming down the street, your line of sight would be the same as with the rest of the homes on that part of the world. The proposed minimum home square footage is 2,500 square foot, and that's a pretty large house for this size of lot, and so that's why the side setback is recommended to be 5 feet, to be 10 foot away from each home, but the 5-foot side setback would protect that utility easement. And the proposed common open space, which is required in the PUD text of 10%, we went back and forth on how to make this a usable, meaningful 10% rather than just an empty space in the back. And what we came up with was a shared courtyard and shared maintenance of their rear fence line, which would be backing up to the Jenkins flooring property. And so there'd be 2 homes with shared property maintenance of the fence. And so that's the purpose of the common open space in the rear, is to scoot the home up to the front 20-foot setback to protect your sight line and then to screen the rear. There are proposed motions to approve and deny in your staff report as typical, and the project text is included in your staff report. And with this being such a small development, it is a pretty small project text, but if you have any questions, I'm available, and the applicant is available as well.
Questions or comments for Austin?
Is 10 feet between houses kind of narrow?
It is, but it's more common than you'd think. The utility easements being on the side of 5 foot and then 10 foot between the homes.
Is it common in that part of town? Those homes seem like they're closer together than in other parts of town.
They are close together. I don't know specifically if they're exactly 10 feet, but 10,000 square foot lot does lend itself to a tight side setback.
Was it, you say minimum 2,500 square feet?
Yes, sir.
I think that was my complaint before, I mean, it's such a small lot, we're trying to make trying to fit two houses on two lots that aren't big, and just squeezing them in there, and I think this is just that much more ridiculous.
But we did 2,000 square foot and give them a little bit more space between houses.
Going back in time.
You could, I think the houses are gonna have to be just almost as big on the second floor as the first to get that minimum home square footage. But Greg could probably speak to the,
I did notice that on the plan, in the plan language, it said the number of lots was 1. I knew it was, but.
Can you help me? I'm still wrapping my head around the shared fence behind Jenkins Flooring, shared courtyard for two houses. Is that their backyard? How does that work? Not- Yeah, please, I'm sorry.
Are we done asking
Yeah.
Austin
I'm
any
sorry.
questions, guys?
Got ahead of you.
Again, Greg Smith, 2595 Country Club Road. I'll try to explain a few of these questions. And the first thing I noticed, the houses are not going to be 10 feet apart. You have a 55-foot wide lot with a 40-foot home. They're going to be 5 foot from the outside edge. So between the two houses will be more like whatever that comes to. It's not 10 feet. It's more
Okay,
than
I
that.
misunderstood
So,
that.
The common open space in the back is purely there to meet the requirement of PUD. It's, and I have noticed, I have labeled on the plat that you have here that we'll be submitting for final plat if this gets approved, that it's non-buildable, and the really only amenity in that's going to be a shared fence in the back that the homeowners will maintain. That'll separate Jenkins Flooring from the two lots there. So, and we worked pretty hard to make sure we match the streetscape around us. As you said, Austin told you, we went back and forth a few times on this, but we feel like that we're keeping in character with the neighborhood as far as the streetscape goes.
So that's what that's what we're calling a courtyard? Is that shared space in the back?
I guess you could call it a courtyard.
I guess that's what threw me off.
It's really just more of a buffer. I mean, intentionally
More
designed.
of a buffer, and two people buy this new
I
homes.
see a courtyard, I'm seeing a fountain and all kinds
I can see lot one homeowner mowing his side and lot two mowing his side. That's kinda how
Is the
I envision it.
fence gonna be on I guess,
Be on the
north side of the buffer?
Be on the south side of the common open space there that separates the lot three on your plat from the two lots up there. So the actual property lines are going to be 15 feet north of that fence is where the property line is, and the long strip in the back that says 1,650 square feet will be the common open space.
And I guess that's why I was confused about it too, because it seems like, I mean, your property line, I mean, you're not gonna be able to split the fence through the common open space. If they wanna build a fence, that separates the property.
And they're going to own the lots. The developer's going to own the lots. If he chooses to put a fence there, I don't know how it's going to shake out, to be honest with you. I don't see it to be a big issue, really.
So just to play that scenario out, if Mr. Jordan bought one of the houses, I bought the other house, put a fence between our yards, then it's no longer a common open space.
Put a door in it, maybe. I don't know how that would work, to be honest with you.
And I guess that's why-
Technically, the common open space will be there in the plat. If you decide to come out your back door and you don't want to hang out with the guy next to you, that's y'all's business, so I can't really say what happened after it's platted and done.
Do we have to have that common open space? Is that required?
I would be for getting rid of it, but the PUD.
you
says
could
have
waive
to
the
have-
requirement, but I couldn't bring it to you without 10%, and so that was just a minimum
We
application
would
standard.
rather you waive the requirement. We can just run the property line down.
I think that's the most sensible thing.
Okay, we're all for
I
that.
get it, okay.
It'd make the lots larger, plus you wouldn't have the issue that y'all are asking me about now, so.
So it's really semantics in the text.
Ultimately, that's exactly what it was.
Okay, I get it.
I'm all for it, so.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Smith? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here for or against this application? If so, please come forward, state your name and address. There's no one here for or against this. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. A motion to recommend approval of rezoning request by Mr. Greg Smith on behalf of Miller Farms LLC. Butch Davis, owner of the property of 0.4 acres, identified as parcel numbers 308-613-001-001270 and 3074-18002-000-5100, located on the south side of East Valley Street, east of Northview Street, and west of Northern Street in Section 13 and 18, Township 3 South, Range 7 and 8 West, by adding a plan text based upon findings 1 through 3.
Second.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. And also waive the requirement for common open space.
Second.
Second.
Sorry.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Nay.
Commissioner Brumlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
Motion is to approve. Passes. And then we've got item number 3, PL 1629, Quality Cabinet 2-lot subdivision. Request for a final plat approval of 2 lots on 9.96 acres. The subject property is located on the east side of Highway 51, north of Memphis Street in Section 21, Township 3, Range 8, and is Zone C2. Austin?
Yes, sir. Project PL 1629. The request is to divide 9.96 acres on Highway 51, the Quality Cabinet site, into 2 lots. Mr. Bob Farley, Farley Surveying LLC, is representing Quality Cabinet Company, who's the owner of the property, for the final plat approval for this request. Lot 1 is 2.98 acres as proposed, and Lot 2 is 6.98 acres as proposed. Both have access to Highway 51. Lot 2's, as is mentioned in the staff report, as a dog leg, is about 60 foot wide, which does accommodate any access for future division or for a right-of-way to be within that 50 feet. But as presented, nothing's presented now. It's just a simple division. Both lots have access to centralized city water and sewer. Lot 1 contains the existing Quality Cabinet building. Lot 2 is vacant. We did verify that the Quality Cabinet building does meet applicable setback for the C2 zoning district, which is 50-foot front. There is no side yard required and a rear of 20. Something to note is that the Lot 2, the newly created Lot 2, will be bordered by R12 residential, and if it's ever developed, would require a 30-foot wide buffer along 3 sides of Lot 2, which it has plenty of room, but just something to consider that would be to note. If approved, this would go to the Board of Aldermen on July 19th of 2022. And all the subdivision comments in your staff report are our standard comments. And after talking with Mr. Farley, he is requesting to waive item number 4, the installation of sidewalks in US Highway 51. At the time of subdivision plat, he'd like to defer, and if any construction occurs on Lot 2 or 1, to defer to that point. But that's the only condition he's requested to waive. He's available for comment, and I'm available for any questions.
Questions or comments for Austin?
Could they even put sidewalks in there with 51? Would that be an issue?
So, in the past, Highway 51 and MDOT does not allow sidewalks in the right-of-way, but in the last couple of years, they've relaxed those standards in and around the square to help us get sidewalks. So I think they probably would allow us. If not, we would require the sidewalks just outside the right-of-way.
That would be the only sidewalk in that stretch of 51 then.
Yes, sir, it'd be the only one.
So what would be the purpose?
It's just it's a subdivision requirement, and so we include it in the staff report.
So in case there's another one getting built back in the back?
Oh, what's the purpose of the sidewalk? Just, it's a city requirement to connect all of the parcels in the city with the sidewalk.
Any other questions or comments for Austin? Thank you, Austin. Will the applicant please come forward stating your name and address?
Bob Farley, 235 West Chulahoma Avenue. Holly Springs, Mississippi.
Any questions or comments, or would you like to give some detail about it? You pretty much explained it all.
I think Mr. Cardosi's done a fine job.
Questions or comments for Mr. Farley?
We're not doing anything with the sidewalks today, it's just a preliminary plat.
This would be final plat, so.
Final plat approval.
Yes, sir. So if your motion, if you propose to present that to the Board of Aldermen, would be just to strike number 4 if you don't want a sidewalk.
Are there any other, is there anything else through there that has?
No, sir. No, sir. And the corners are down in the ditch, and the ditch is fairly good size. So.
Dollar General, they just told me had some, but Dollar General's
General's
2 lots
got
up?
Three lots up, or 2? It's at least 2, maybe 3.
And, there's a new gas station
Two-
coming in
yeah,
there
two lots
also.
more.
He told me the service station on the corner just.
Yeah, they will.
It's under construction. I don't know if there's a sidewalk on it or not.
They will.
But there's a vacant lot and an automotive spot north of this. And then everything to the south, there are no sidewalks on any of that.
I guess it kind of goes just right to that railroad bridge, doesn't it?
So there's a question, so more for Mr. Austin. If we know the gas station's going on the corner, they're going to put a sidewalk in. If we leave this text in, then we got to put a sidewalk here, but we can't go back and require like Dollar General to add a sidewalk after the fact.
Not after. We'd have to catch it during development.
Right.
Or, if we waive the sidewalk requirement now and Lot 2 develops, they'd be required during their certificate of development to do their little stretch there. So, not to say this would never have a sidewalk there, you could say to defer during construction.
You're referring to the land or the lot between Quality Cabinet and that auto, like a repair center?
The dog leg, yes, sir. The access for Lot 2 is actually a piece of Lot 2, so that would be required to have a sidewalk if and when it's ever developed. I just don't know when that'll be.
But Lot 1 wouldn't be required to have because they're not doing any development.
I may have said it backwards. The dog leg lot is
Lot 2 is the.
Lot 2 is the dog leg lot, yes.
So Lot 2 is, if and when it's developed, would be required to do a frontage sidewalk on their little piece of Highway 51. And if the Quality Cabinet building's ever redeveloped, they would
Yeah.
have to do it then at that point as well.
But they don't, yeah.
Is AWG putting a sidewalk on their, in front of there?
I don't know.
No, that's a big cornfield out there in the front still.
I
Are
don't
you
think
talking
we
about
had-
way up?
Well, no, because the front 2 lots are not developed yet. So when those front 2 lots are developed, they will have to.
They're separate parcels up in front of AWG, but I just don't remember the requirement and when they subdivided, if that was even discussed.
I'm all for trying to work to get sidewalks in throughout the city, but I just don't know how sensible it is.
So what is this, I'm still confused where this particular sidewalk text would go if it's not Lot 2, where would it go? According to the current text,
So if approved, a subdivision is required to improve the road, which is a state highway, so we defer to MDOT, install curb and gutter and put a sidewalk in, so it would be required on both lots, if number 4 stays in there.
So that would require a sidewalk across the entire frontage of Quality Cabinets?
Yes, sir.
What's the planned development behind the business now?
I don't know, because I'm just working for the Quality Cabinets guy. It's under contract. So, but I've heard it's gonna be a mini storage, but I have no idea.
Okay.
It's completely out of line for me to venture a guess, because that's what it is.
I didn't know if the existing business was gonna add on to it.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. He's been letting the baseball team practice back there for years.
Okay.
So, since 1994, I don't know what they've done before that. That's the first time we surveyed.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Farley? Thank you, Mr. Farley. Is there anyone here for or against this application? And do I have a motion?
A motion to grant final plat approval to Quality Cabinets 2, lot subdivision 2, lots 9.96 total acres, located on the east side of Highway 50 well, north of Illinois Central Railway overpass and south of North Parkway in section 12, Township 3, South Range 8 West, based upon findings that the submitted plat generally conform to the requirements of the city code ordinances subject to the following conditions 1 through 10.
Second?
I'll second.
That was Terry.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motions to approve passes.
I missed it from my notes. Did that include number 4 or exclude?
Yes, he said 1 through 10.
Skip it
Okay.
in.
Thank y'all. Next is item number 4. We've got a Wiseman 2-lot minor subdivision. Request for a final plat approval of 2 lots on 7.54 acres. The subject property is located on the east side of Getwell, north of I-269 in Section 27, Township 2, Range 7, and it is zoned AR. Austin?
Yes, sir. Project PL 1630, Mr. Ben Smith with IPD LLC, representing John Michael Wiseman, who's the owner, requesting final plat approval for this 2-lot subdivision. The proposed plat will create 2 lots, total acreage is 7.54 acres. Lot 1 consists of 6 acres. Lot 2 is 1.5 acres. Both have access to Getwell Road. The frontage of Lot 1 is 184 feet, and Lot 2 is 140 feet. Both lots have access to centralized water. Individual on-site systems are used for sewer. Lot 1 contains an existing roughly 1,700 square foot residence. Lot 2 is vacant. And as you mentioned, it's on the east side of Getwell, north of I-269. It's zoned AR. The following setbacks are applicable. Front 50, side 15, rear 35. It does meet the minimum lot size requirement of 1.5 acres, the minimum lot width of 90 feet. If any new structure is built on the new lot, the maximum building height is 35 feet. None of these properties lie within the designated flood zone. Just like the last application, this is for a final plat approval. If approved by the Planning Commission, it'll be submitted to the Board of Aldermen at their meeting on July 19th, 2022, and no restrictive covenants were received in this submittal. I did receive a request from the engineer to waive items 3 and 4, which would be the public improvement of the lane and a half on Getwell, and to not put the sidewalk on Getwell as well, as a part of our subdivision standard covenants. I did submit this to the city engineer, who recommended that that the road improvement's not needed, but he does request that we be deeded the right-of-way via the plat. And I did communicate that back to Ben, and he's agreed to dedicate the right-of-way, but does request us to waive items 3 and 4 of those standard subdivision covenants, or comments. The plat is included in your staff report. I'm available for any questions, and Mr. Smith is here as well.
Any questions or comments for Austin? Thank you, Austin. Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address?
Mr. Chairman, Board, I'm Ben Smith, 2700 Stonebrook, Nesbit. This is just a rural subdivision tract of land that my client wished to subdivide. I think a friend of his is purchasing the lot next door to him. He obtained this land or this house in 2007, so he's a long resident. Just a rural section of Getwell Road. We request approval and waiving of any improvements. The right-of-way is dedicated on the plat, so we are dedicating the right-of-way if Getwell Road is ever improved. But we are asking to waive requirement for an extra lane and sidewalks. And for your reference, this is between 69 and Pleasant Hill Road, is where this piece of property lies.
To be clear, with the dedication of the right-of-way, there's sufficient room if they did want to.
Yes,
Make
we've
any
got,
changes
we've
to
got, it's 106 foot of right-of-way, so that's what's required.
Agree with that?
That'll more than
53
that
feet
for
from center
6
line.
lanes of front, yeah, 6 lanes.
Any other questions, comments for Mr. Smith? Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Smith. Is there anyone here tonight for or against this application? No one's here for or against. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant final plat approval to Wiseman 2 lot, minor subdivision, 2 lots, 7.54 total acres, located on the east side of Getwell Road North, north of the I-269 interchange, and south of Pleasant Hill Road East, in section 27, township 2 south, range 7 west, based upon a finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances, subject to the following standard conditions: 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
Motion to approve passes.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself on the next 2 items, actually.
All right, let me name them, and then you'll recuse after mentioning those items. Item number 5, PL 1631, Home to Suites parking variance, a request for variance on the size of parking spaces. The subject property is located on the south side of Creekside Boulevard and north of East Commerce Street, more specifically 1052 East Commerce Street in Section 17, Township 3, Range 7. He's going to recuse himself at this time. And then Austin, when he steps back, if you'll go ahead and give us that report.
Yes, sir. All right, project PL 1631. As you mentioned, this is approval of zoning ordinance variance relative to parking space size. The applicant's requesting 18 foot in depth of the parking stall rather than the required 20. So Mr. Suresh Panja, representing Puja Hospitality, I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly, who's the owner of the property, is requesting this variance. The hotel, a Hilton Home 2 Suites, proposed to be constructed on Lot 3, Mackenville Commerce Commercial Plaza, which is about 3-acre parcel on Creekside Boulevard. So this project has been in front of the Planning Commission several times for final plat approvals and for a previous zoning approval on a height building requirement of 52 feet, which we mentioned earlier in this meeting, which was approved. And so the current request is to allow the 18-foot parking stall depth. I did submit this to the fire marshal prior to the meeting just to get his feedback on drive aisle widths, and this 18-foot reduction would actually help the fire marshal's required distances between the parking stalls. So that's another reason for the request. In discussion, I've listed all the criteria legally we're required to consider in the variance approval or denial, and I'll read these quickly for the record. That granting this variance, the special conditions and circumstances exist are peculiar to this land structure or building and are not generally applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. And the applicant's response of a 30-foot beyond the scope buffer on the rear of the property It is correct. That does present quite a challenge with the 30-foot buffer on the rear of the property for the buildable area. The driveway constructed on the business serving businesses to the south, infringing on our buildable area. As I mentioned, the drive aisle width of 26 that's required by the fire department, this 18-foot drive aisle space would help accomplish that. The little enforcement of the provisions of these standards would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties within the same district under the terms of this ordinance. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from actions the applicant or are based upon economic considerations. And the applicant was not, that granting the variance would not confer on the applicant any special privilege otherwise denied by this ordinance, other land structures or buildings in the same district. We did include the typical proposed motions to approve or deny. And in the staff report, I did include exhibits that they've submitted further certificate of development to give you an idea of the scale of the site with that 30-foot buffer, where the proposed hotel is situated, and the drive aisles that I mentioned that the fire marshal was requesting stay at 26 feet, also to meet applicable setbacks. So the applicant is available for any questions. I'm here as well.
Questions, comments for Austin?
When we say 20 feet to 18 feet, we just mean the length of the stripe, the bar?
Yes, sir. And I said 26, I meant 24 on the drive aisle width.
Right.
But the 18, it'd just be 2 foot less of striping on the depth of the parking stall.
But the width will be the same?
Yep, 10 foot wide, just 18 feet long
Yeah.
rather than 20.
I mean, long vehicles will still stick out.
That was my question. There's no, according to what I'm looking at, all the parking spaces are being asked to go down to 18 feet. So there's no, in a hotel, sometimes you got a truck with a trailer, you got a larger, crew cab truck, it's 20, 22 feet long. Where would they park?
Any other questions, comments for Austin? Thank you, Austin. Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address?
Mr. Chairman, can two people come up?
I will just have you both state your names and addresses.
Pete Patel with Patel Construction at 17565 Lake Willow Avenue in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
And I'm Joe Azar, 150A Public Square, Batesville, Mississippi, 38606.
That was my question. So all of the plan here, everything is 20 down to 18?
Yeah, so sir, we own a number of hotels and we construct a lot of hotels. So majority of the big trucks usually overhang into the grass area or into sidewalks. And the sidewalks are actually 5 foot all the way around the building.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So the thing is, it wouldn't impede into the 26-foot driveway that we would have. And Hilton has a requirement of usually 9 by 18. That's their standard. So we're meeting those standards also. I know you.
Yeah, I can see where the 20-foot spaces, both sides, I would narrow that down to 20 feet. And the fire marshal wanting a wider space through there.
Any other questions or comments?
Could I?
Yes, sir.
Could I speak? My name is Joe Azar again, and I'm the economic developer for Panola County, the Panola Partnership. And we're the chamber for Panola County. And this family, the Suresh Panda's family's members of ours and have been since well before I took the job there 5 years ago. But I just want y'all to know that a little bit about the family briefly, that they are amazing community champions. They, whenever we have an event, no matter what it is. They're the first to offer special rates, and now that's really important to a city when you're bringing in, concerts or whatever, any kind of event you got, in the Civic Center or whatever. They're the first to make that offer, and it's very helpful. They keep a beautiful, well-maintained presence of their buildings, and they're just incredible owners. In other words, they have well over 100 employees down in Batesville, and they're expecting to have 40 a year, and their turnover is under 5%, which is unheard of these days. So they're really good about taking care of their people, and not to mention the property tax and the added jolt to the tourism tax that'll be around here. I know y'all know all that, but like I said, they throw a Christmas party every year for all the first responders and people that work for the city and the county. They go around to the businesses and with gifts and blessings. I mean, they're great people to have in your community, and just wanted y'all to know that.
Any other questions?
Any other questions, comments?
Roll Tide.
Yeah, that's why he's on that end. Go Tigers. All right, is there anyone here for or against this application? No one here for or against. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve zoning height variance. Zoning height variance, wait a minute.
There's a typo in the staff report.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be a zoning parking variance.
Yeah, the motion to approve says zoning height variance.
Yeah, just scratch out height for parking.
Parking space.
Motion to approve zoning parking variance requested by Mr. Suresh Pandya on behalf of Puja Hospitality Incorporated, the owner of the property, to allow approval of a zoning variance to allow parking spaces 18 feet in depth rather than the required 20 feet on property identified as parcel number 3074-1724.0-00003.00, more specifically known as Lot 3 of Mackenville Commerce Commercial Plaza, a 2.9 acre parcel located in Section 17, Township 3 South, Range 7 West, on the south side of Creekside Boulevard, east of Mackenville Road, based on the following findings, A, B, C, and D.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Here, aye.
Commissioner Ashworth? Commissioner Ashworth?
Oh, aye.
Here.
I will give y'all kudos too, because I seen y'all out there personally pouring bags of concrete to fill those potholes, because I know y'all own that, and I know that y'all will fix that up, but that was appreciated for those that access through there, and I saw y'all each out there personally doing it, so thank you on behalf of that, to try to fix some of that, so. All right, well, somebody grab Mr. Shane, just have him stand right there. Terry?
Yeah.
You mind grabbing Shay just for a second?
Oh, I thought he was gonna be out on.
Well, he's gonna step
He's
back
got
in.
to do it twice.
Does he need to come in and recuse himself again from this next
Can we-
item?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he ought to accuse himself from both of them.
okay. You just gotta look pretty for us just for a second, so. All right, item number 6, PL 1633, 2550 West Street rezoning. Request to rezone .40 acres from C3, general commercial to R10, single-family residential, medium density. The subject property is located on the east side of West Street and south of West Center Street, more specifically, 2550 West Street in Section 13, Township 3 South, Range 8 West. And at this time, Commissioner Skeen will recuse himself again. Austin?
Yes, sir. Project PL 1633. Mr. Todd Steele, who's actually unavailable tonight, he's out of the country, but he's representing Mr. Rons and Missy Black, owner of the property. They're requesting to rezone 4/10 of an acre from C3 commercial to R10 single-family residential, and the parcel number is listed in your staff report. This lot is not currently platted and is located in the Courthouse Square Historic District. As currently used, the commercial zoning has created a non-conforming use with this residential occupation. So this proposed rezoning would correct that. So insurance purposes, if they were to rebuild the home or make any substantial renovation, it would not be allowed with it being commercially zoned. So they would need residential zoning before they could do any of that. The R10 single-family residential district is described in your staff report. And it's characterized by single-family detached dwellings, other structures, accessory thereto. The surrounding zonings are C3 to the north, R10 to the south, C3 to the east, and R10 to the west. So the R10 would be in keeping with the surrounding character of residential. The future land use plan designates this property as mixed use, which is appropriate for the location. Small-scale office, retail, and residential uses are mixed well, so the R10 would be in conformance with the comprehensive plan. As I mentioned, so the non-conforming use that's been created and the residential occupation, this is actually a down zone, so we don't get many of these if it's going from commercial to residential. There are proposed motions in your staff report to approve or deny, and I would just encourage you to direct your attention to items 1, 2, and 3, because that's the legal criteria we're considering in the rezoning. There is a survey of the property showing the existing home, and there are excerpts in your staff report of an aerial and the future land use plan. And I will note that I did mention a renovation or a reconstruction, but any of that would be required to go through a Historic Preservation Committee, with it being in the historic district. And so this property would just facilitate that process to happen. This rezoning would be.
And currently, how it's zoned, and forgive me for saying this, but if there was some sort of damage and they had to rebuild, this also prevents that from happening, correct?
It'd be a residential occupation, yes, sir.
Correct. We want to protect their home, so. I think we had a similar case like this in Nesbit somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, where commission that was the same scenario. They were commercial, and one area of it, I don't know that all of them, but we kind of did the same move here because it was non-conforming, and I think we downsized it to in order, they wanted to live there and just adjust it to be right in the zoning in the event for insurance purposes and stuff as well. So we are familiar. I'm not sure if it's this commission.
I think it is.
Yeah, okay.
We did
So,
it.
It's the Gwen and Nesbit house.
we could use that as an example to compare with. So. Any other questions or comments for Austin? Thank you, Austin. Will the applicant please come forward, state your name and address?
Rans Black, 2550 West Street, Hernando, Mississippi, 38632.
Questions, comments for him, or is there anything you'd like to add?
Just wanted to say my wife's family has owned the property for 31 years, I think, so it's legal non-conforming use, and we are looking to improve the residence, so it'll be our residence for a long time, so rehab inside and out, and that's the reason we're looking to make the changes to protect the investment.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Is there anyone here for or against this application? If no one is here for or against this, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a rezoning request by Todd Steele on behalf of Rands and Missy Black, owner of the property, to rezone 4/10 acres from C3 Commercial District to R10 Single Family Residential Medium Density District.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumlow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins? Commissioner Ashworth.
Aye.
Motion is to approve passes. Mr. Ashworth, will you grab Commissioner Skeen for us, please? Thank y'all. We're gonna, do we take a motion for that? Did it make sense? I'm gonna call for a 5-minute recess and some commissioners can take a break. Back to order. All right, we're on item, what is now number 7 tonight, the PL 1636, Chapel Grove final plat, a request for a final plat approval of 70 lots on 67.57 acres, located on the west side of Robinson Gin Road, south of Oak Road Road, in Section 23, Township 3, Range 8, and it is zoned PUD. Austin?
Yes, sir. Check my dates for, okay. PL 1636, this is a request for final subdivision plat approval for the Chapel Grove PUD. Applicant's Craig Smith of Mendrop Engineering Resources on behalf of Butch Davis, who's the owner of Montclair LLC. The Chapel Grove PUD consists of 73 lots, 73 residential lots, and 3 common open space lots on 67.57 acres. A little project history. On April 10th, the Planning Commission recommended to deny this application because there had not been a change in the neighborhood, which passed unanimously in the April 16th, 2019 meeting. The Board of Aldermen approved this zoning, and I attached those minutes because there were several conditions that were required to be met, and one of which was the access drive going through to Montclair Subdivision be gated for emergency access only and for pedestrian access. And so it's very specific of the width, design, and construction of that road, and applicants agreed and constructed that. And so with all that being said, with the Board of Aldermen's approval of that rezoning to PUD in 2019, that served as the preliminary plat. So that's what we issued construction drawings off of, and they built the subdivision too. So just a little project history. As presented, this application does substantially conform to what was preliminarily approved by the Board of Aldermen on that date. And if it's recommended to be approved tonight, it'll be heard by the Board of Aldermen on July 19th, 2022. And so as you'll note in the meeting minutes, the mailbox area on the common open space lot 72 towards Robertson Gin Road is presented for their cluster box. And the emergency access point is on sheet 3 of 4 that's proposed to go into Montclair on an emergency access basis only. And the applicant's been in conversations with the fire marshal on the type of access that's going to be required, and he'll be required to comply. I did include the project text that was approved by the Board of Aldermen in that staff report for Chapel Grove that gives an idea of minimum home square footages, the general road layout, and some preliminary covenants that will be required to come back with the plat submittal in the coming months when they're ready to plat and record. The applicant is available, and like I said, this is for final plat approval. It does substantially conform to that of the preliminary plat as approved from the PUD.
Questions or comments for Austin? Thank you, Austin. Will the applicant please come forward?
Greg Smith, 2595 Country Club Road, Senatobia. I have nothing further to add unless you have questions of me.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Gregg? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here for or against this, Nick? Okay. Since no one's here for or against, is there a motion?
I make a motion to grant final plat approval for Chapel Grove PUD consisting of 67.57 acres located on the northwest side of Robertson Gin Road, southwest of Pondview Circle, northeast of Green Village Drive, and Section 23, Township 3, Range 8, based upon the following findings: that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the approved preliminary plan for the planned unit development and generally meets the requirements of the city codes and ordinances, subject to the following conditions 1 through 12.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motion to approve passes. Thank you.
They gonna stay? Been this long.
Finish strong.
We actually moved number 7 to the be heard first tonight, so the next one is item number 8. So just so y'all know, there wasn't a sign in place to post that this zoning hearing was to be heard, and due to that, it's been requested that we take a vote to table this until the August 9th meeting. So without going into detail for Austin or anything, can I get a motion in a second?
Make a motion to table it.
To the August 9th meeting.
Yep, to the August 9th.
Gotcha.
Second.
Which one did we just take?
This one right here.
Commissioner
Because-
Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
All righty. Item number 9, PL 1640 Oak Grove Subdivision, Section B, final plat. Request for final plat approval for the Oak Grove Minor Lot Subdivision, Section B. One lot, 9.3 acres, located on the north side of West Oak Grove Road, west of Scott Road, and east of Oak Crossing Drive in Section 15, Township 3 South, Range 8 West. The property is currently zoned in the A Agricultural District. Austin?
Yes, sir. Mr. Nick Kernan with Civil Link Engineering is requesting final plat approval for one lot, Section B of the Oak Grove subdivision. A little project history in this one, a 7-lot preliminary subdivision was approved on February 15th. And then they followed up with a final plat approval of the abutting 5 lots to Oak Grove Road on March 15th, 2022. And I've included those plats in your staff report. The preliminary submittal proposed to have this subject property split into 2 lots. The application tonight in front of you is just to combine those 2 into one. The site's located on the north side of West Oak Grove Road, west of Scott, east of Oak Crossing, and the section Township and Range in your staff report. It's a 9.3 acre tract out of a larger 206 acre tract. And then the northern half of that 145 acres of that 206 acres was zoned to PUD on the June 16th, 2020 meeting with Weatherby West. So this is just south of there on the limit, just along the limits of the floodplain. And as I mentioned, the preliminary approval was on March 8th, and the final plat for the first 5 was approved on March 15th. We have not platted and recorded those front 5 lots yet. They all have access to public water, including the lot in question tonight, and the connection for public sewer was waived by the Board of Aldermen on March 15th, 2022, with the final plat approval for the first 5 lots. And so that's again requested for the applicant tonight. It's zoned A, so the applicable setbacks are front 50, side 15, and rear of 35. I did submit this to the city engineer and asking about the requirements for road improvements, and he recommended no road improvement, but the dedication right away as shown on Getwell Road. And the applicant is requesting to waive the requirement for sidewalk, which would be item 5 in this staff report. And so, as stated, the applicant's requesting to also waive sewer, which is a piece of item 3, and item 5, which would be the sidewalk requirement. The applicant is available, and I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Questions or comments for Austin?
Austin, did we waive the sidewalk requirement for the houses that were right there in front of this lot?
It wasn't mentioned in the planning commission minutes. I'll have to check the Board of Aldermen for the 5 lots.
Right.
Nick says it was. I wasn't here. I'll have to check the
I
minutes.
think that was the intention, but I don't know if it was actually, I don't know if it's clear. I don't know. I can't.
Let's take notes, man.
So did we waste a bunch of breath arguing about who's gonna maintain the road?
We did.
Yeah.
Somebody else owns it now, and he's building his personal house here.
First thought I had when I thought.
So that's my question. So this now is one big lot, 9 acres. Somebody's already bought it, gonna build a house.
So
We're waiving sewer on that lot now?
well, the now new developer of Weatherby West and the 5 lots purchased all the property, and he's gonna build his personal house here. He's gonna try to get sewer from Weatherby West for this one lot, if it's possible. But
Nick, before we go any further, will you state your name or your address at least?
Nicholas Croonin, address 3629 College Road, South Haven, Mississippi.
Thank you.
Who's the new developer on Wells?
Skip Miller. Skip Miller.
Questions, comments from Nick? Thank you, sir. One here for or against?
We deny it just to keep your record going?
No, he broke that record.
But you jinxed yourself.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to grant final plat approval for Oak Grove Subdivision Section B, a one-lot residential subdivision consisting of 9.3 acres, total acres, located on the north side of Oak Grove Road, west of Scott Road, and east of Oak Crossing Drive in Section 15, Township 3 South, Range West, based upon the finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances, subject to the following standards. 1, 2, what was the condition for part of 3? No waiving sewer?
Yes, sir.
Waived sewer from point 3. 4, waiving number 5, 6 through 11.
I'll second.
Did I hear you right? Did you say you were waiving 5 through 11?
No, waiving.
Okay, I heard that wrong. Just wanted to make sure. We're just
6,
waiving 5.
approving 6. Just waiving.
Waive sewer requirement from item 3 and waive sidewalk from item 5.
Gotcha,
Item
okay.
5. Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brumbelow?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawkins? Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motion to approve passes. 3 for 3. All right, Commission, on item number 10, it has been withdrawn, so there's nothing to motion on tonight with that. Any other business, Austin?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Russell and Adam. Russell and Adam.